I'm thrilled to be here on the innovation stage to be able to talk to you about a new dairy-based innovation and the research that went into it. And we are going to have some samples for you guys to give a try at the end here. But let me hop right in. And so what we're going to talk about today is, first of all, what is GoodSport and what is the impact of this particular innovation for dairy, the steps that it took to develop the drink from idea to finished product, and how research guided us every step of the way, and then what has all that research gotten us? And so here we go. GoodSport is a sports drink. It is made from the electrolytes and carbs from the goodness of milk with 3 times the electrolytes and 33% less sugar. And I'm going to get into how we did it, and you'll see, you all could see the samples out there. They're clear. It's a clear and refreshing beverage. And you know, what's exciting about GoodSport is that it is a sports drink with only natural ingredients. Of course, we're harnessing the electrolytes and carbs from milk, so we have a good source of calcium, an excellent source of B vitamins. It is a lactose-free product, and it is, like most sports drinks, shelf-stable. And if you want to take a look at what we were able to do using milk and dairy to create a sports drink, you can see, compared to the industry leaders, the non-dairy alternatives, that GoodSport has over 1,600 milligrams of electrolytes per bottle. That's more than Pedialyte, by the way. And not only do we have more electrolytes, but we have more types of electrolytes because of the naturally occurring minerals in milk. It has 1/3 the sugar of Gatorade and Powerade, and half the sugar of the leading natural sports drink, Body Armor. And as we're going to get into, unlike the others, we have a lot of science behind, well, I shouldn't say unlike the others, Gatorade does too, but we have a lot of science behind our product showing its real efficacy. And so why is this so important to dairy? Well, let's take a look at something here. This is the sports drink category. It's $8.8 billion and growing every year. Okay, it's a huge market that dairy has never been able to play in before, and now we're opening up that door for the dairy industry. You were just talking about, the last speaker spoke about, you know, the benefits of dairy and how do we drive dairy usage. Well, a sports drink made from dairy also gives us other nutritional benefits to talk about. You know, the fact that milk provides a higher level of hydration is resonating with consumers. They believe it. They trust milk to deliver. And it's a fun, current, modern way to talk about dairy that's exciting to consumers. It certainly provides a new usage occasion for thirst and hydration, right? And it modernizes dairy's image, especially with the coveted Gen Z and millennials who over-index in sports drinks. And you know, we really think that by looking at new formats for dairy, it's going to inspire further innovation for the industry. And as we'll talk about, we have a sustainability story here too. So it's all wrapped up in one package here. But how did we do it? How did we take an idea from concept to our finished product? Well, step 1 is you have to have an idea. And this kiddo is mine. I have 3 children. I did not start out in the dairy industry. I didn't create this sports drink because I was trying to figure out a solution for dairy. I'm an attorney, as was mentioned, and a nonprofit executive, and I just wanted a hydration solution that would work. I have children that I care about being hydrated, and I have a lot of athletes in my life, funny, from, you know, amateur to pro, former pro, and I knew hydration was important. At every one of my son's baseball games, he'd be offered, you know, a Gatorade, and I just didn't want him drinking it. I didn't want him having the artificial ingredients. There was too much sugar. But I wanted to keep him safe and healthy. I knew hydration was important. I wanted a natural option that would really provide hydration that works. And I went to the store and I bought every natural drink I could. He didn't like the taste of any of them. And it doesn't really matter, you know, what's in the bottle if you can't get it in the athlete's body, right? And so I didn't have a solution, but I had read about athletes who drank chocolate milk, right, after a workout to recover. And I started bringing that to him, he was young, as his healthier alternative after his games, but it didn't provide the hydration solution for before and during, because, you know, he didn't want to drink it, as most athletes don't, you know, to have the protein sitting in your gut while you're trying to run or exercise. But that chocolate milk inspired an idea, and I thought to myself, I wonder if you could make a natural sports drink out of milk. That's really where this crazy idea came from, but not so crazy, right? So step 2, when you have an idea, is start with a little bit of research. Is it even possible? And I did what most people do. I did a quick Google search, milk and sports drink. And I learned that milk is more hydrating than traditional sports drinks and water, and that milk is packed with electrolytes. And this was a study that I found that was released in 2016, just a few months before I had the idea, which is why it popped up top in my Google search. It was a big study out of the UK that was creating what's called the Beverage Hydration Index, looking at various beverages to see which ones are more hydrating. And you can see here, full fat and skim milk were second only to oral rehydration solutions they give people in the hospital for dysentery, okay? You can see how much higher it is than traditional sports drinks. It's much more hydrating, and I thought to myself, well, if milk is packed with electrolytes, and it's been scientifically shown to be more hydrating, we gotta be able to make a sports drink out of milk. And so that's what I set out to do. Now, step 3, and I have a superstar here in the audience, KJ Burrington. Step 3, if you're going to try to do something like this, is find yourself some of the top experts in the world to help you with it, because it's not so easy. I tried it in my kitchen, does not work, okay? You need some experts. I'm going to talk about Dr. Bob Murray first, because Dr. Bob I reached out to in the beginning, knew I needed an expert that knew something definitely more than me about hydration and how sports drinks work. Dr. Bob is our Chief Hydration Officer and the head of sports nutrition at GoodSport, and he's been with me since day 1. Dr. Bob was the co-founder and former director of the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. He has literally written the book on sports drinks. He's an internationally renowned expert, and he started with us to make sure that as we formulated this drink from milk, that it would do what we wanted it to do, provide the same level of hydration that we were seeing in the studies with milk, right? And these were our initial prototypes, our milk-based sports drink. At the time, I was calling it sports milk. And I went out with these in coolers, dragged behind me, to hockey games and CrossFit gyms, and I had athletes test them, and I had a survey that Dr. Bob, wanted everybody to fill out. And what we learned is this. Athletes were excited and thrilled about the idea of naturally occurring electrolytes and carbs from milk, but they didn't want a milky sports drink. And they love milk proteins after a workout, but they don't want them in their gut when they're trying to work out. So that was a nugget of information we kept in our heads. And knowing all this brought us to step 4. Find somebody that could help you out. Find a premier research facility to help with product development and what turned out to be much, much more. And this is where KJ enters my life. There's a lot of KJ in here. KJ Burrington is the food scientist dairy food scientist at the Center for Dairy Research, who's worked with me since day 1. And when I walked into the Center for Dairy Research with my milky prototypes and said, I want to make a sports drink from milk, KJ looked at me and said, I have been waiting 15 years for somebody to do this. And she was, thrilled and excited and has worked side by side with me on this. And so, step 5, I found the research facility here at the Center for Dairy Research at the University of Wisconsin. And we set out together to work on product development. I said, my first question was, KJ, what makes milk white and milky? And she said, well, it's the proteins. And that, with the information that I had heard from the athletes and the sports health professionals about not wanting protein in the gut during a workout, made me think, well, can we get rid of the protein? And KJ said, of course, come up to the lab next week. We'll ultrafilter out the protein from milk, and you could see what we get. To her credit, for anybody who's familiar with milk permeate, I'm going to tell the rest of the story. She did suggest it. I didn't understand it at first. I'm going to give her that little bit of credit. But anyway, I came up to the lab. They had a huge vat of milk. They set up the ultrafiltration system. And these are the actual first samples that KJ and I toasted. This clear liquid that is left when you remove the protein from milk, the protein and fat. And it's packed with electrolytes and B vitamins and the carbohydrate needed to help promote hydration and fuel active muscles. And I tasted it and I literally cried, because it's basically a tasteless, liquid that I knew we could flavor. We had already been working with a flavor house. And it had the mouthfeel you would expect from a sports drink. So I knew we were on to something. And so how we do it is just what I said. We ultrafilter milk, remove its fat and protein. We do make the product lactose free by hydrolyzing the lactose into its glucose and galactose components, meaning it's breaking it down into its simple sugars, which actually has several benefits for a sports drink application. A, it helps the drink hydrate the body better. B, it provides fuel, more readily available fuel for active muscles. And of course, C, it helps, for people who have difficulty digesting. But here's where the sustainability story comes in. So we could go out and buy milk tankers full of milk, run them through an ultrafiltration system, and throw out the protein to capture the part of the milk that we need to make GoodSport. But instead, KJ and the Center for Dairy Research, let me know, by the way, dairy processors do this all day long, and millions of tons of this part of the milk that you need, called milk permeate, goes to waste. And so instead of going and doing it yourself, why don't we find dairy processors who don't need their milk permeate, so you can do what's called upcycle it, taking something of little or no value and turning it into a valuable product, okay? And so that is what we do. We work with dairy processors who are disposing of their milk permeate or just sending it back to the farms to mix into feed, and we use that to create GoodSport. So we are an upcycled certified product, and we have, our sustainably sourced main ingredient. Okay, step 6, you have this idea, we want to do it, but I needed help finding suppliers and the ingredients and getting the testing done. And all of that was done at the Center for Dairy Research. And let me tell you something, I'm just an individual, and yes, I raised capital to be able to do what I'm doing. But I never would have been able to afford to do it if we didn't have the affordable resources at the center. And also, to have the world-class scientists that are there to help. You couldn't put a team together like that. You just couldn't do it. It would have never happened. So we worked together and we got to a proof of concept. We had these were we could do it. And they tasted great and we were excited. But you're not done there. And so my work with the Center for Dairy Research didn't end there. We needed to create a supply chain. I needed to find the dairy processors that we could work with that would have the ingredient, that would treat it like a human, a food grade ingredient, right? That's different than just a byproduct you're going to dispose of. We had to figure out how to transport it. I'm a Chicago girl. I didn't know from milk tankers. I know a lot about milk tankers now, and pumping and hoses and the whole to-do. And then we had to find a co-manufacturer that we would work with. And it was because of the expertise at the Center for Dairy Research and the help that they had given to our very large co-manufacturer in the past, helping much bigger brands, might I add, that we were able to find somebody to work with. And then, of course, that takes a lot of testing and work too, which the Center for Dairy Research and KJ helped me with. Another invaluable service. And so we got there. We have our finished product. We have GoodSport. So what does that mean? Well, great, we have it. We knew it had all the electrolytes, right, that we wanted. It's got over 1,600 milligrams of electrolytes. It's got the right balance of carbohydrate because Dr. Bob is making sure that it does. But then we needed to conduct some research to make sure that the claims were based in science so that consumers could trust what we were telling them is true. And so with the support of DMI and the support of Dairy West, we were able to undertake research at Penn State University, and we now have 3 studies published, peer-reviewed and published in prestigious journals. The first of which was that beverage hydration index, that study that I had first found showing milk is more hydrating. Well, we did that with GoodSport too. And what it showed is that GoodSport, and these are the scientists' words, not mine, provides superior hydration compared to water and the leading sports drink, because GoodSport was keeping participants hydrated for over 2 hours, which was more than an hour longer than Gatorade or water. It really works. And our most recent study demonstrated that GoodSport provides improved exercise performance. So the carbs from milk are providing improved exercise performance for athletes. These are really important factors when it comes to a sports drink. So, what does this all mean? What did the research get us? Well, I have a happy kid. He's grown a lot in the 5 years that it took me to create a sports drink, okay? But in addition to my son, we have athletes, including our investors, Ken Griffey Jr., Ronnie Lott, and Thaddeus Young, who are supporting this dairy-based sports drink. They know it works. They know that our mission to help athletes perform better and stay healthy is where they want to be at. They believe in the goodness of milk to provide this level of hydration, but it's not just them. I was discussing earlier with some of the folks at DMI, we have teams in the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the WNBA, and the National Women's Soccer League that are providing GoodSport to their athletes. And why are they doing that? Because it works better. You'll see soon we'll start putting out some videos and testimonials of some of these coaches who will talk about they are seeing improvements in performance from their athletes that are using GoodSport. It's making a big impact. It's reducing dehydration caused cramping, and it's improving their performance on the field, on the court, etc. But not only that, and I hope you love this, we're the official sponsors, the official hydration partner of the WNBA champions, the Chicago Sky. I'm just saying it's their first championship. It was the first year they were drinking a milk-based sports drink. Is there a connection? Maybe. I don't know if you guys watch Hard Knocks and the story about the Indianapolis Colts and you saw somebody carrying a bottle of GoodSport. It's out there, okay? It's really doing its thing. But here's the other thing. We know because of the teams that are using it, we've got colleges and universities that purchase it, and of course, high school athletes as well. So we know that it's resonating with team athletes, but here's another cool thing. It's really resonating with fitness enthusiasts, the influencer crowd, the CrossFitters, the Rumble gymmers, the Pelotoners, and that's big news. That's really going to help us spread the word with the Gen Z and the millennial crew. And I think that's what's going to continue to create relevancy for dairy. And so I'm going to bring it back in so that you guys have some time to ask questions. But all of this work and all of the steps we went through were, born from research, based in research, now backed in research, and all of it was done and made possible, most of it was done and made possible because of the Center for Dairy Research. And the ways in which they helped us, from formulation to testing to finding suppliers to FDA and USDA regulatory advice and things like that, were absolutely invaluable to helping us get to where we are. So for that, I say thank you. Thank you to you all. Thank you to the dairy farmers of Wisconsin for supporting such an incredible research facility. And thank you to the dairy community for believing in and supporting innovation in your industry. Thank you.